Well. Barrel full of Daryl is still alive and well. I'm Daryl, the guy that bores you by discussing music, movies, and whatnot. Um, Thanks for joining me today. By the way, I have received a recording from Scratch Ankle, so please stay tuned. Here we go. Today, for the music, I have a surprise for you. I'm not going to reach back to the 60s. I'm going to discuss a current active musician. Be surprised. Has anyone heard of the musician known as Beck? Raise your hand. Okay. He was born and raised in Los Angeles. And Beck David Campbell is a singer, a songwriter, and a record producer. He rose to fame in the mid 1990s with his experimental and lo fi music style. Over his career, he became known for creating musical collages with wide-ranging genres, such as folk, funk, hip-hop, electronica, alt-rock, country, and psychedelia. Now, he also uses a lot of sampling in his songs. Now, early life was not glorious for him. He grew up in poverty. And due to being an outcast and feeling unsafe, he dropped out of school after junior high. He worked a string of odd jobs, including loading trucks and running a leaf blower. Now, he began his musical career as a folk musician, playing country blues and Delta blues, often on city buses. Speaking of buses, in 1989, he caught a bus to New York City. He had $8 in his pocket and a guitar. Now, he had little success there. He did make some friends, but probably more acquaintances. He slept on a friend's couch a lot, but mostly he was homeless. And after being in New York City for 2 years, he was tired of being cold and getting beat up. So he returned to LA. Now, in 1992, Beck visited a record producer for Rap-A-Lot Records, and together they produced a single called Loser. Now, Beck believed this song was mediocre and a one-off experimentation, so he dropped it and he went back to his folk music. Now, in 1993, the next year, he was living in a rat-infested shed with very little money, and a producer at Bong Load Records convinced him to release Loser as a single, and they pressed only 500 copies. Well, as you may know or can guess, it received a lot of radio airplay, and Beck started to receive a lot of attention. So a fierce bidding war started among several major record labels, and he eventually signed with Geffen Records in December of 93. And in 1994, he released 3 albums: One Foot in the Grave, Stereopathic Soul Manure, and Mellow Gold. Now, Loser is the first song on the album Mellow Gold, and it achieved worldwide acclaim. I really like this album, although I confess it took me a few listens to really dig it and get into it, but once I did, I was hooked. Genre-wise, Beck is really hard to pin down, but I would say this album has a strong hip-hop sound. The song Soul Sucking Jerk is a testament to this. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. Now, with this album, Beck was characterized as the king of slackers, to which he replied, "Slacker my ass. I never had any slack. I was working a $4 per hour job and trying to stay alive." That slacker stuff is for people who have the time to be depressed about everything. So now Beck was famous, and he gained the respect of his peers, which included Tom Petty and Johnny Cash. But he felt that these three albums were just compilations of his prior work. So he went back into the studio to record a linear album, which gave us Odelay in 1996. And it took a year and a half to create this album, which blends country, blues, jazz, and rock, and again, much sampling. Odelay received commercial success and critical acclaim. Beck got a Grammy nod for Album of the Year and received 2 Grammys, Best Alternative Album and Best Male Rock Performance for the song Where It's At. So now we'll skip ahead to the year 2002, in which the album Sea Change was released. Now, in 2000, Beck and his girlfriend of 9 years broke up, leaving him melancholy and very introspective. So he began writing bleak acoustic songs, which became the album Sea Change. Although it doesn't contain any radio-worthy hits, on its release it became a commercial hit and a critical darling. Rolling Stone said of it, "The best album Beck has ever made, an impeccable album of truth and light from the end of love." Now, I second that opinion, and this is my favorite Beck album. I often play it on road trips with me and my gorgeous wife, Lisa, singing along. Now, 2 more great albums followed, Wero and The Information. Again, these albums are so full of different genres, it's almost like they have no genre. Beck describes them as retrospective hip hop, whatever that means. Although he describes the recording process as painful, you can tell that, at least at times, he had a lot of fun making these 2 albums. Now, over the years, he has released 14 studio albums, 60 singles, and 48 music videos. He's won 8 Grammys from 22 nominations, including Album of the Year for Morning Phase. In total, he has received 44 awards from 110 nominations. Yeah, he's that good. He really is. As with all the other artists that I discuss, he is a mainstay in my music rotation. So please give a listen to the songs that I have added to the playlist. I'm pretty sure, but I hope you at least enjoy them. And now a word from our sponsor.
Well, howdy, y'all. This here's Ellie Mae Bubba. You know, the ex-wife of Billy Ray Bubba, also known as the best damn car salesman in Scratch Ankle. Yeah, horse shit. No way he could have sold those shit cars on his lot. Well, after getting caught by the feds for making and selling hooch, now he lives in the federal pen in Atmore, Alabama, and I say hallelujah, there's no better place for him. So I want to tell you about my candle-making business. I got the idea from seeing a website called Puget Sound Candle Company, owned and operated by Megan Moy. Now, all of her scents are nice and sophisticated, but that shit won't flush here in Scratch Ankle. So I came up with some scents of my own, like frying bacon, Gunsmoke, chicken coop, Pabst Blue Ribbon, and tobacco chaw. Now, I ain't got a website yet, so I'm pitching my wares here on this podcast. I got me a little stall set up next to the bait shop in Ricky Ray's Meat Market, so stop by and take a whiff of these lovely local aromas. I'm right across the street from the Piggly Wiggly in downtown Scratch Ankle, Alabama. Hope to see you soon.
And we're back. Okay. Let's talk about a movie. Spoiler alert, there, I said it. My ass is covered. Now, there's this famous director called Stanley Kubrick, and he made a Vietnam War film titled Full Metal Jacket. Oh man, what a great movie. This film is based on an autobiographical novel titled The Short Timers, written by Gustav Hasford. Excuse me. Now, there are two main parts of this film. The first follows Marine recruits during 8 weeks of boot camp on Paris Island. The second part follows most of the same recruits as they engage in war in Da Nang. In part one, the drill instructor, Sergeant Hartman, is convincingly played by R. Lee Ermey. In case you don't know of Mr. Ermey, he was a staff sergeant in the Marine Corps. He saw action in Vietnam, and he was also a drill instructor. When he left the Marines, he became an actor, and his role in this movie is unequaled. He's truly scary, and the recruits are shitting themselves on day one. Now, one of the recruits, J.T. Davis, played by Matthew Modine, whoever, was nicknamed by the DI Private Joker due to his fondness for cracking jokes. Now, the actor Arliss Howard plays Private Evans, and he was nicknamed Private Cowboy because he's from Texas, and you know how that joke goes. There's another recruit, which the DI dubbed as Private Snowball because he was black. And then we have Private Leonard Lawrence, played by Vincent D'Onofrio. He's big, overweight, slow, and just continuously makes mistakes. Therefore, the DI dubs him Gomer Pyle. Now, if you're not familiar with Gomer Pyle, give it a Google. Now, these are the main characters for part one. Now, part one, the basic training was well represented and realistic. Hey, we're talking about Stanley Kubrick here, right? Now, the obstacle course scenes were intense, especially with Gomer Pyle fucking it all up. And the scenes in the barracks when the DI is dressing down all the recruits are a bit shocking and very loud. The DI, Sergeant Hartman, has many classic lines delivered at high volume and directly in the recruits' faces. Matter of fact, when I was watching this film again, my wife kept her hands over her ears during these scenes. Here are just a few of the DI's great lines. You fuck up again and I'll unscrew your head and shit down your neck. The best part of you round down the crack of your mama's ass and stain the bed. I'll rip out your eyeballs and skull fuck you to death. And so on and so on. Now, after numerous fuck-ups by Pyle, the DI puts Joker in charge of Pyle to help him to come up to standards, which he does in a gentle and easy fashion. But, Pyle continues to fuck up. During a hygiene inspection one evening, the DI finds that Pyle's footlocker is unlocked, and he goes nuts. He throws the footlocker open and finds a jelly donut. This, if you're familiar with this scene, it's great, right? So this is the last straw, and the DI announces that the privates are to blame for Pyle's fuck-ups, and they will all suffer because of it. Now, the following night, all of the privates give Pyle a blanket party, in which Pyle is restrained in his bed with a blanket and suffers a beating with bars of soap wrapped in towels. Very painful, and every private took part in it. Now, this had a very dramatic effect on Pyle. Previously, he was slow and always had a stupid grin on his face. But after the beating, he became sullen and intense. He mastered all of his tasks and duties, especially on the rifle range. While cleaning his rifle, he would talk to it, and his rifle's name was Charlene. So Joker overhears that, and he's worried about him having a mental breakdown, which he does. The night before graduation, Joker is on fire duty while all of the other privates are asleep. While making his rounds, he hears noises coming from the head or bathroom. He eases in and finds Pyle with a rifle and loading live ammo into a magazine. The Joker asks if it is really live ammo, and Pyle, with deranged eyes and an evil smile, replies, 7.62 millimeter full metal jacket. And at this point, Pyle stands up, faces Joker, and begins to loudly recite the rifleman's creed while inserting the clip into the rifle. Now, the DI is asleep across the hall, but he's awakened by this and he storms into the head. Joker informs him that Pyle's rifle is loaded with live ammo. The DI begins lashing out at Pyle and tells him to lay the rifle down and back up. Instead, Pyle shoots the DI square in the chest. Then he sits back down on the toilet and shoots himself through the head. And that's the end of part 1. So in part 2, we get to see Vietnam, some facsimile. The Joker is now a reporter for the Stars and Stripes, a newspaper for the troops. He wears a peace sign pin on his jacket, and on the front of his helmet, he has written "Born to Kill." In one scene, a little bit later on, a colonel calls Joker to attention and questions the dichotomy of these emblems. Joker answered, saying it represents the duality of man. Another scene has Joker flying in a helicopter being taken to his assigned battle area. And in the door of the helicopter, there sits a gunner who is rapidly shooting and killing anyone that comes in sight. So Joker asks him how he can kill innocent women and children, and he replies, "It's easy, I just don't lead them as much." And towards the end of the movie, Joker meets up with the Lust Hog squad, where he finds his basic training buddy, Cowboy. Well, they have a good time. Reunion ensues. Everybody's slapping and laughing, having a good time. And in the final scene, the squad is pinned down by a sniper. The sniper kills 3 men, including Cowboy. And the rest of them split up and circle around behind the sniper. Now, Joker comes upon the sniper, and he starts to shoot, and his M16 rifle jams, which alerts the sniper, who happens to be a teenage girl. She opens fire on Joker, who is behind a pillar, and another Marine enters and shoots her and mortally wounds her. Laying on the floor, she cries and begs for them to kill her. The troops argue about leaving her for the rats to die in pain or putting her out of her misery. They finally agree on the latter, with the condition that Joker be the one to kill her, which he does. Now, this final scene it's really gut-wrenching and aptly depicts the horrors of war. I'll stop here, mostly because I've run out of movie to talk about on this one. But I have, as usual, I've glossed over much of the events in part 2, as well as part 1. But there is a lot of gun shooting, explosions, and people dying. It's a war movie. Now, if you haven't seen it, it's a must-see film. I wouldn't lie to you. Every aspect of it, from the acting to the realistic scenes to the production, is just over the top. I would say that is nearly on par with the film Apocalypse Now, but not quite. It is streaming, by the way, but you'll have to rent it. It's easily worth the $4 rental fee. So get some. Word of the day: parsimonious. Sounds like a religious word, doesn't it? Maybe I picked that up, the parson part. Parsimonious. But what it means is unwilling to spend money or use resources. In other words, stingy or frugal. It really sounds like my ex-mother in law. Joke of the day: there's this tribe of pygmies over in Africa, and they are called the Fagawi tribe. Now, none of them is over 3 feet tall, and the bush all around them is 4 feet tall. So all they do every day is running around saying, "We're the Fagawi, we're the Fagawi." Hope you like that one. Okay, question of the week. First, we'll discuss the answer to the question from the last time. We had a little powwow. Which freezes faster, hot or cold water? Now, I got to say, I despaired a little bit after I started researching the answer to this question, so please bear with me. There is an effect called the PEMBA effect, and that's spelled with an M at the beginning, MPEMBA, and it's named after a guy in Tanzania, which is over in Africa. And the effect is the observation that a hot liquid can freeze faster than a cold liquid under certain and similar conditions. Now, Pemba claimed this during his secondary school education, and he was met with a lot of ridicule by his classmates and his teacher. Now, later on, the school was visited by a physicist, Dr. Dennis Osborne, and Pemba asked him about it. Well, curious, they set up an experiment and found that yes, it can happen. Now, the effect has been much disputed, mostly for a lack of controls. But here are a few proposed explanations for the effect. First is evaporation. Warmer water is going to evaporate quick, and thereby it reduces the amount of water to be frozen. Another explanation is frost. A cooler water will freeze from the top, which further reduces heat loss. Warmer water will freeze from the bottom and the sides. So this can happen. It has happened. I don't know how often it happens, but there you have it. If you want to try this yourself, it's recommended that the starting temperatures be 95 and 41 Fahrenheit. New question of the week. What causes hair to be either curly or straight? Yes, it's genetic, we know that, but why does it occur? What causes it to happen? Here's a thought for the week. Next time you go to the Walmart or the Piggly Wiggly, save yourself some time and park next to the cart return. You'll thank me later. And don't forget about my playlist, Spotify and Apple Music. I always drop songs on there, and I do hope you enjoy listening to them. And again, you may contact me by clicking on the send me a text button in the episodes or directly at bfodpodcasting@gmail.com. It would be nice to hear from you. Yeah, lonely sometimes. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll talk to you next time.